Good evening and welcome to Mental Health Matters After Hours. I'm psychologist Dr Audrey Tang, my co-host is Judith Crosier, and in this evening show we always take a look at all things mental health and wellness and take a deep dive into the issues. We also have the most fabulous practitioners on, and today is no exception. We have Susannah Bradley. She is a Reiki therapist, she is a sound healer, and she's a play therapist joining us. And we're going to learn a lot more about how holistic therapies can support us. Let's head over to the main studio. Susannah, welcome to Mental Health Matters After Hours.
Thank you for having me back again.
It's great to have you because I experienced the most amazing sound bath last time Susannah was on. It was fabulous. This was on our sister show, Skits and Quibbles, and it was just so beautiful and calming. And one of my favourite bits was there was a sort of a sea sound.
The ocean drum.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, I love that.
It was lovely. And then Susannah took me through a play therapy exercise where I think that my producer, the producer, learned a lot more about me than really she needed to know.
I wish I'd been there.
There we go. But we're here to talk about Reiki today.
Yeah.
Now, Reiki is something we haven't discussed on this show before.
No.
So do you mind telling us a little bit more about it and our viewers and what it does to the body?
So Reiki is a Japanese word which means universal life energy. And it was established by Dr Usui, USUI, many years ago. And it's all about giving energy, channeling energy through ourselves to somebody else, and being able to hold that for somebody. And the practice helps to rebalance and relax and calm and shift things that might be being stored in us, like traumas and toxins and so on.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And this is where, because a lot of people said, even my osteopath the other day actually said so many people, she can't work on them because they're storing so much that you need to almost get a release of what's going on in the body.
Oh, wow.
And so why is energy so significant to trauma? Why do we need to get that sense of letting go?
Okay, so when we experience trauma, regardless of age, we experience trauma in utero. So, you know, the fetus can experience trauma from external, happenings. Begin to hear it 20 weeks, 18, 20 weeks. The ears are developed, and so a fetus can hear. And so even in utero, the trauma can be experienced. If a mother is experiencing abuse, then the levels of cortisol rise, and that goes straight down to the baby. And so trauma is experienced at any age, and particularly vulnerable when a fetus or pre-verbal. It's quite fascinating.
Yes.
So that trauma then gets stored somatically within us. Everything that we experience within our body somatically. And once that trauma is held within us, unless we work on it and release it, it's always going to be there.
Yeah, and this is really important for us to realise if we're looking for somebody to support us, because we had Ronia Fraser on doing a whole special on trauma-informed practice. So please do go and look that up if you're just tuning in now. But Susannah, therefore, if we're trying to understand those feelings and that, I guess, tension, how would you describe trauma and how our body holds on to it?
I think that was a really good example.
Like that.
So we hold tension within our bodies. You can see trauma in people sometimes, the way they hold themselves really tense or really timidly, depending on our responses. Okay. We could be in a fight, so we might be really tense and ready to fight, or we might withdraw. And, with children in classrooms, you might get the really, really quiet ones. Oh, they're really good, but actually the trauma has made them respond in that way. Yes. Absolutely.
This is really important to recognise.
Yeah,
and actually, this is something that teachers possibly could benefit from learning as part of their practice. Not that you're not doing enough. I mean, my goodness. But that
in training, it's useful to know. It's useful to know that just because a child is really quiet doesn't mean that they're happy. Yeah.
That's a really good point, isn't it? Yeah.
Really, yes.
Interesting.
Oh, gosh.
So if somebody comes to you for a Reiki session, what would the session entail?
Okay, so I'm really privileged in my practice that I have a beautiful space. I have a beautiful yurt space in my garden, which is very calm and relaxing. So automatically they come in, they can lie on the bed and relax and be calm.
Sounds lovely.
And I think the environment's really important for any practice, is to have a really, nice, calming environment. And then the client, I would just discuss what they need, what they're expecting, and put their minds at ease if they've never had it before. And then I would sort of cleanse their energy. I would feel their energy first to see what's going on in the body. And then Reiki can be either hands-on or it can be hands-off, depending upon the client and what their needs are and what they can tolerate, because different people tolerate different things, and touch can be really triggering. So some people prefer the hands-off approach, which is great because it's like it's like massaging the body without touch. And some people can't have massage because they can't bear to be touched. So actually, it's a really nice way of receiving without having to touch.
That's really interesting, actually, because I thought Reiki was hands-off. So to hear you say that there is a form where you can have hands-on, I didn't know that. So yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah. Thank you.
That's okay.
And after you've done your practice, how might we feel after a session?
After a session, you might feel really relaxed and calm. Could feel really energised. I have some clients coming, wow, something shifted and I'm feeling like, ready to go. Some people might go away with headaches and feeling tired because toxins are released. Yes. And so I always tell people to be rehydrate, drink lots of water, flush the toxins through, and that should really help things happen. But similar to a sound bath, the effects can last up to 72 hours or so afterwards, so it's really important just to take care of yourselves after a session and to be kind.
That's really interesting, because just to digress for a moment, after a sound bath that I did it was a hen event, the instructor there said you might have some weird dreams as well, and so it really can, I guess, just carry with you.
Yeah. And I guess it shifts things within us, and it's a bit like the unconscious coming forwards then, and it shifts things unconsciously.
I know, I don't think I've put this question in the script, so I'm going to ask it as a cheeky question, just because I'm nosy. Your energy has got to be an important part of that process. So how do you protect your own energy?
Yeah, so we're taught how to protect ourselves beforehand, and I'm kind of lucky because I'm a therapist, so I've been looking after myself for a long time, but just checking in with myself, what's going on in my body, how I'm feeling, trying to let things go that might otherwise carry through, and so on. So so it's always important to keep your energy in check, and if you're not feeling it that day, and you really don't feel it, then you wouldn't practice.
That's really important recognition there. No, thank you for that. Susanna, you're staying with us, and we're going to go over now to Linzi of Linzi Loves to Organise for her decluttering tips.
I go to lots of customers' houses. They have belts perhaps all on hangers or hanging on their door, and they look untidy. The door doesn't open properly. So I just wanted to show you a good way of rolling a belt and keeping it in place. So you get the end of the belt and you put it into the hole this way, and then you just literally roll it around so that it goes inside, and then you can pull it tighter. There we go. Much better. It stays in place, and then you can stack them. So you can stack them, or you can put them in your drawers, but they stay together, so that's much better. The next thing I wanted to talk to you about is folding, because actually folding makes a massive difference in your drawers and things like that. So, and you get much more in. So these are just some standard pyjamas. So I just thought I would show you quickly how to do this. So fold your bottoms, and then with your top, so I fold all of my t-shirts usually like this. I just hold it, put my fingers there and bend it back so that you get a nice straight line with the arms tucked in. Then pop your bottoms in there. And there you go. So when you come to get your pyjamas, you can just grab it and go. It's all together. And they stack up really nicely, so they look really good as well and aesthetically pleasing. Things like jeans. So jeans, if you've got a shelf for them, they work really well. But again, it's about the folding really. So I usually fold them always so that the pockets are on the outside. And it's so simple. Fold them like this, and you can make a pile so that goes on your shelf. Or if you haven't got a shelf, another good thing is in a drawer. So with the jeans again, I would fold them. So into, and then they're almost rolled really. And then they stack in your drawer along like this. And you can get lots to the side. So that works really well as well. And then the other one is, now this is really if you love organising, because a lot of people would not be bothered with this. I love it, obviously I'm an organiser, so I do try and do this, but you can see how chunky these socks are, right? I'll just show you the difference. So you just roll it down, and then you get the end of the sock like this and just bend it over like that. So that's much different, you can see, which means you're going to get a lot more socks in your drawer. And if you're like me and like things aesthetically pleasing, then you can, you know, have them all lined up. So that's that. I think that's everything today. So thank you very much for listening, and hope you've got some good tips from it.
Welcome back to Mental Health Matters After Hours. We are really privileged today because we have Susanna Bradley, who is a holistic healer, and we're talking about Reiki today. And very kindly agreed to give us a short demonstration of a Reiki sort of practice. Okay, over to you.
So, well, yeah, I guess I would come over to one of
Yeah. Do you mind being the guinea pig?
No, not at all. Not at all. I'm very excited about this.
Amazing. Or should we swap places, because then we can maybe use that camera?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, so yeah, I would just ask you to take some deep breaths and just start to relax. And just think about what's going on for yourself in your head and in your heart and in your body. And then I would just put my hands onto your shoulders. Okay, I'm going to move my hands over your head now.
That looked amazing?
It really was. It was very grounding.
Yeah.
I felt like I was sort of breathing up here, and then when you started, my breathing really lowered, and I just felt a lot more centered, and like I was just properly, like I was sinking into the chair. And then when you had your hand in front of my forehead, you weren't touching it, but the heat was incredible from your hands. So yeah, it was very interesting, really nice.
Oh,
thank you for that.
That's all right, thank you.
What do you want people to feel after that sort of session?
So after a session, I would like people to feel relaxed and calm. That would be, really nice. But obviously, sometimes people don't. Sometimes might feel, I guess as things shift. They could the energy shifting. It might feel a little uncomfortable. And some people might feel sad. Not often, sometimes have people who cry because the energy release is such that it just shifts so much internally that they haven't been able to process before.
Gosh.
Yeah, very interesting. So, I mean, I've just experienced it firsthand. Yeah. You're in the room, you're standing very close to me. I would have thought that's extremely important because you're working with energies and the transfer of energies. How can, say, Reiki on YouTube work? And you've described it as distance Reiki. Does that work? Can it work? Have you experienced it?
Yeah, so I have experienced it, and I believe it does work. For me, I would have a client, I would ask somebody who's receiving it to be in a quiet space with music and just somewhere calm that they're not going to be disturbed. And then I would carry out the practice or sort of on myself and hope that energy would transfer over. And I have done it, and it has been really well received.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's really interesting because it's quite a strange concept. But I guess energies can be, if we believe in things. And I think there's so much that we don't understand.
Yeah, that is true.
And we don't know about that it can work. Sorry about that.
No. No, I think that's really interesting. And we're going to go on to talk about energies.
Yeah, I mean that. It sounds like then it's a different form of energy that we'd use to do distance Reiki than the one when you're in the room. Do you mind explaining a little more about energy as a whole and how we respond to it?
Yeah, energy is really interesting. So we all feel energy. We all feel energy. If you walk into a room, you can pick up on the atmosphere in that space and that energy. And that's depending on what's going on, you can really work out whether you want to be in that space or whether you don't, can't you? So I guess that's all energy. And so when we're working with people, you can pick up their energy when you're in a quiet, calm environment of what's going on for them in their bodies in different spaces. And we scan around the body when we're doing Reiki to find out where we can feel the energy.
That's really interesting.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Yeah, because, so would you say if we were tense or holding the tension somewhere, you'd feel sort of...
You could feel that. You can see it.
You can see
it.
It
was tense and wound up, but you can also get that sense.
This is really fascinating.
It really is.
And I guess the Reiki works sort of with a vibrational force. So if you can pick up on those vibrations when things are quiet within the hands and the energy there, then you can
Yeah. It's interesting because one of the yoga exercises is just rub your hands together and then really feel the heat and then pop them on your eyes, and then she takes you through eye yoga, but the warmth and it's just beautiful and it feels even more calming and effective somehow than just shutting your eyes and looking up, looking down. That warmth makes a big difference. We're keeping Susannah and we will be back just after this. Welcome back to Mental Health Matters After Hours. We're here with Susannah Bradley. She's a holistic healer, and we've just experienced, or Jude's just experienced, a little Reiki exercise, and it's just
amazing,
fascinating talking about the energies that we carry. And when we're talking about somebody who is carrying trauma, is there a difference in not only how they carry themselves, but their energies, if the trauma is perhaps forgotten or compared to one that's holding it very, very vividly? Or is there no difference because the trauma is still significant, even if they've repressed or suppressed it?
And I guess that's a really interesting question. And I guess that if the trauma is repressed, then it's really held deep within the body.
Yes.
And so it might take more to get it out, and it might even not be recognised as trauma because it's so deeply ingrained in that person.
Interesting, yeah.
And so they're not consciously aware of it. So actually, somatic healing and healing through things like Reiki and sound can start to shift things and bring that more into the conscious level than it might otherwise have been. And then maybe it could be worked on with therapy and so on. But sometimes when things are so deeply entrenched in us, it will take a long time for them to come out.
I think this is the thing about all kinds of therapy. It's about uncovering what you're repressing, and then once it's uncovered, then it's easier to deal with.
Absolutely,
but a lot of people get hung up on maybe the uncovering process and don't go any further because it is still about that's just the start.
It's just the start, and it's painful.
It is,
and you have to be really vulnerable to be able to go there.
Yes, and I guess with that, how do you start being able to unpack things like generational trauma compared to tiny T traumas, perhaps, which could be a passing comment? I'm not minimising them because trauma's trauma, but I think generational is almost like packed in there.
Generational trauma is fascinating, and it becomes a cycle, doesn't it?
Yes.
And generational is, you've got a grandmother who's got the eggs of the grandchild within her already,
Yes.
And so anything that happens to grandmother is also happening to the eggs,
Yes.
And so it's fascinating how that,
and
that gets passed down through the DNA, the trauma that is experienced. I can't remember where I was going.
Sorry, the second bit was it's sort of linking that to that's quite a different trauma, perhaps, to the tiny T traumas or the big T traumas, which are more present,
but are experienced within
the
lifetime,
body. Yes,
rather than within somebody else's, and that you're not aware of. So it's trauma that you're not really aware of has happened to you because you weren't physically present. I guess, at the time. And I think that takes a lot of understanding of what happened to the previous generations and how that impacted them, and then working out what's going on for you and how those link and so on. But I think it probably takes longer to unpack. It's not a quick fix.
No, I don't think anything ever is.
Anything ever is, as much as we'd like it to be.
But I guess something that's happened to you in your lifetime, you may at least have that repressed memory that you can find.
So obviously some things are going to take a lot longer, but I mean, how long is a piece of string? But how many sessions of Reiki might somebody need?
I think it depends on that individual. Sometimes some people will come weekly for maybe 6 to 8 weeks to start really shifting things, and then have a regular session every 4 to 6 weeks, or moving on to 2 to 3 months afterwards to sort of top it up and keep that energy balanced.
Okay. Yes. So it doesn't have to be weekly, ongoing. It can be That's interesting. So once you've got to the crux of the matter, you can then keep that, like you say, on top of it. And are there exercises that we could do ourselves to continue to feel the benefits, or is energy work? Does it work differently to, say, muscle work?
Well, I think that we can always do loads and loads of different things to help ourselves, but as energy, you can do Reiki on yourself. When you do your level 1 Reiki, you go and you have to do a 21-day practice on yourself, and that's really interesting as to how to do it. And so, I guess anybody could train anyone can train in Reiki, and then can practice on themselves and do their own energy healing that way.
Okay then, interesting.
That's really good. And with when you're saying you do the 21-day, that's level 1 Reiki, how do you find a reputable therapist in this? Because it's not necessarily regulated.
No, it's not regulated.
And this, you are a qualified therapist in so many areas as well as Reiki. And so you have all of that grounding, rather than someone who maybe I've just done a couple of YouTube sessions and now I'm putting myself out there as a healer. That's not healthy for anybody.
No, it's not healthy for the clients or for the practitioner, because they'll be taking on stuff as much as the client will.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah. So I would always say look at the UK Reiki Federation. They've got a list of practitioners and also the CNHC, the Complementary Natural Healthcare.
Yes,
that's
yeah.
what it stands for. Yeah, I can never remember, but yeah, I am a member.
No, we never know what our acronyms stand for. Seriously, I never know. It's HCPs, HPs, you know.
All of those. Yeah. So, yeah, I would always check that they're on a register somewhere and they're qualified, and that those qualifications have been recognised somewhere.
And that's what the register does.
Yeah.
Because the course has to be put on the register, and then if you follow the course, it's really important.
So you've learnt from a qualified practitioner too, because there are lots of people who teach who might not.
Yes.
Yeah.
What else can Reiki be used for? I mean, just for example, I have heard it used on animals as well.
Yeah, Reiki can be used on animals. And I do it on my dog sometimes.
Oh my goodness!
I get a little bit. I've got a really anxious dog, and it can really calm him.
Really?
Yeah. It can be.
I'm
Really,
going to have to ask you to show me some of those exercises. I'm really going to help with mine.
Yeah, and it might well do. Yeah, just holding your hands over the animal can really help. And also plants, you can help to bring plants back to life with energy healing. So energy can heal lots of things,
Gosh.
And actually it can just make the space nice as well.
Yeah.
Because you're so right, you can go into something where there's a vibe.
Yeah.
And it's icky.
Yeah.
Cheeky question again, I'm just throwing in here. How do you cleanse a vibe?
That's a great question. Do you cleanse a vibe? That's a really interesting
I use
question,
sage.
isn't it? I use sage. I use Palo Santo. Sometimes I spray Florida water. So yeah, depending on. But sometimes you just need to. And sometimes I might, depending on how bad the vibe is, I might be opening windows and doors and letting it blow through and just change that energy in a space.
Yes.
And also changing my own energy maybe help. By jumping or moving and just shaking things off a bit can really change your own energy.
I love that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I say you should dance every time before you leave the house.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Apparently.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Well, you're a dancer, aren't you? Of course.
Yeah.
So yes, and it does motivate you.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, do you mind giving us some just sort of top tips for protecting our energy?
Yeah.
Putting you on the spot, I know, but just things that we can do because we all have to go and face the stressful world.
Yes. I think grounding's really helpful. So breathing, just being present in that moment and just being aware of what's going on for you in your head and your heart and your body, how you're feeling, what sensations are there. So yeah, certainly for me, breathing can really help to calm. They say blowing on the tip of your finger can calm, of your thumb can calm the vagus nerve.
Wow.
Just doing something like that can gently calm the system down and so on. So it's thinking of simple things. But I mean, dancing can shift the energy, so it depends on what you need.
I like that. I like putting the vagus nerve calming with the energising dancing because it's true. Sometimes you just... And that's not going to help, I don't think, because you don't need to feel any more calm.
No.
But if you're uptight, then you need something different.
And another good thing I've just thought of, sorry, very excited, humming. Humming's amazing. So this is from sound healing. There's a great book called The Humming Effect about how when we hum our own healing vibration. And when you're humming, you can't have any intrusive thoughts.
Wow.
And so humming is a real healer. Yeah. So everybody needs to hum.
That's fantastic. And I sing and I didn't even know that. There you go.
If you've been humming, let us know in the comments. That's amazing. Oh my goodness. That's so fascinating.
It really is. So where can we find out more about you? Because I definitely want to find out more about Reiki and your practice.
So, well, I've got a website which is Reiki Healing Bedfordshire, and I'm on socials on Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn. So that's at the moment where I'm at with things.
Great.
Absolutely
Thank you.
amazing. Thank you so much, Susanna. As always, it's a pleasure, and we are feeling really nice and relaxed now.
Yes, very. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And we'll go over to test the train. In today's Test the Trend, I wanted to look at fitness trackers versus smartwatches. For a very long time, I had a fitness tracker, and I got very attached to it because I originally bought it to have a pedometer, really, before they really had watches and all kinds of other bells and whistles. And then because I got used to that particular app, I stuck with it and stuck with it and stuck with it. And it got to the point where I got one of the top of the range ones, but by this point, the fitness trackers were so big, it was taking up about that much space on my wrist. And eventually my husband said to me, I think you probably need a smartwatch, because realistically, I wasn't doing what a fitness tracker is set up to do. However, what I do need is sometimes being able to do what I want to do on my phone on my watch, which is what a smartwatch is set up to do. And they're a lot smaller. So now I have tried the Garmin fitness tracker, and this is the one which measures your swimming, it measures your heart rate when you're running, it measures your VO2 max, all of those things. Those metrics meant nothing to me. I didn't need them, didn't use them. I only really cared about how quickly I got around in parkrun. My smartwatch will do that. But my smartwatch also means I can answer my phone. I can respond to texts. I can check my heart rate if I want to. I can check my steps. And it links me to other apps which can improve my fitness, but they aren't so metrics based. So I think on reflection of my experience, if you are an athlete, then the fitness tracker is brilliant because it will also tell the time. It will also do the things that a watch will do. But if you want to learn a little bit more about your fitness, whilst being able to kind of use your watch as an extension of your phone, then it's the smartwatch that I would go for. And they're both around the same sort of price. We've come to my favourite part of Mental Health Matters, which is always reflecting on what we've learned. And Susanna, thank you for today, because we've never really talked about energy shifting.
No.
And yet we talk about it so colloquially. Oh, the vibe. Oh,
we do.
Bad energy in here. And we sometimes do it ourselves. We sort of... I do that sometimes, feeling that I've just got this bad vibe hanging around. So with energy practice, how do you look after your energy because it's energy transference, when you notice, you've had that experience with a client or with a situation, and then you're kind of, how do you just cleanse?
Shake it off.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess one thing you could do is shake it off. You could, just flick it off your body, because
So
it's
literally
just flick it off your body. It's one way of doing it, just shifting that energy away.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to know and be aware of what's your stuff and what's somebody else's stuff. So recognising what's going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I was just that's what I took from your earlier session, because when you're transferring energy, you've got to make sure that your stuff is not going to affect the other person.
Yeah, absolutely. And you hear people say, they made me feel like this. And it's like when they've just given you all their stuff. So just don't take it and just shift it off, just get rid of it.
I love that, because that's another way of looking at the you made me feel.
Yes.
Because so often, as on the cognitive psychology side, we get told, it's, you don't say that someone made you feel that way, you can choose. But actually your way of looking at this, it's a bit like, well, someone has just handed you a whole energy dump. Maybe there is an element of just don't accept it.
Yeah, flick it off.
And you do know that some people do have the tendency to make you feel a certain way, like, you need to sort of, breathe after they've gone. And so it's not cognitive, it's it's physical energy potentially.
Yes.
And so maybe you have to use like a mixture of the two to be able to then get yourself back and get rid of that negative energy.
Yeah.
It's so interesting.
It is. Yeah. What have you taken from today? Because I've got so many things that I love.
Me too. I think the main thing that you've done, I mean, the little practice you did on me was amazing. I could physically feel it even when you weren't physically putting your hands on me. So yeah, it's raised quite kind of broad questions really. But you've also confirmed that there is such a, because I've always wondered, is there such a thing as physical energy that people can give to each other? Can we really actually feel energy in a room? Or is it just in our minds? But actually, no, you've confirmed that that's a real thing. It's almost tangible.
And that relates to the point about animals as well.
Yeah.
Because a lot of dog trainers will say they're picking up on your energy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's when you're desperate for them to stop barking or to be quiet or to sit. They're thinking, oh, it's all up here.
Exactly.
I'm going to play up more. So I think that's the other thing I wanted to just ask a bit more on, was the energy transfer for animals. Is it just sitting with the animal and having your hands there, or is there kind of a stroking or...
So I would be holding my hands, I wouldn't stroke, I would just be holding them above, just transferring that energy.
And then you set the intention of the energy.
Yeah, setting intention is so important, isn't it? For everything, we need to set an intention of practice.
Oh, I think that is our lovely tip to end on for today. It is whatever you do tomorrow, set an intention and set a positive one. From all of us here, good night.